Welcome to NPJR, where we explore the great outdoors one national park at a time. I'm Justin.
And I'm Robin. We encourage you to pause the podcast at any time and discuss some of our talking points or try answering our trail trivias. Today, we're heading to a land of glaciers and rugged wilderness tucked away in the southeast coast of Alaska, Glacier Bay National Park.
Located along the rugged southeast coast of Alaska, Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve encompasses a stunning 3.3 million acres of fjords, temperate rainforest, towering mountains, dynamic tidewater glaciers, and 1,200 miles of coastline. It is a place where geology is alive, where ancient ice has sculpted the land, and where indigenous cultures and diverse ecosystems thrive. Glacier Bay National Park is the 7th largest national park in the U.S. In 2024, Glacier Bay welcomed over 736,000 visitors, setting a record for annual attendance. We are so fortunate to have been part of this record-setting attendance. Since Glacier Bay became a national park unit, over 15 million people have visited.
The story of Glacier Bay begins over 200 million years ago when tectonic forces collided oceanic plates with the North American plate, forming the mountains of southeast Alaska. Over successive ice ages, glaciers carved deep fjords and valleys into the land. A fjord is a long, narrow, deep inlet of the sea between high cliffs. During the Little Ice Age, the years 1550 to 1850 approximately, Glacier Bay was filled with a massive tidewater glacier. When the English naturalist and explorer Captain George Vancouver sailed by in 1794, the glacier extended into Icy Strait.
The glacier began to retreat rapidly. By the time the naturalist John Muir visited in 1879, the glacier had receded 48 miles up the bay. This unprecedented retreat became one of the most studied examples of glacial recession and geological change in the world. The continuing movement of ice, sediment, and water makes Glacier Bay a living laboratory for geologists and climate scientists.
Inspired by John Muir's writings and advocacy, Glacier Bay was designated a national monument in 1925 during Calvin Coolidge's presidency. Over the decades, its boundaries were expanded, and it was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1979 as part of a larger international park system shared with Canada.
In 1980, with the passage of the Alaska National Interest Land Conservation Act, ANILCA, Glacier Bay became a national park and preserve. Today, the park is co-managed with an emphasis on both preservation and public enjoyment. It is one of the least developed, yet most spectacular national parks in the U.S. This is a unique national park in many ways, but one of the most interesting facts is that most people access the park via cruise ships. Trail trivia. What percentage of visitors to Glacier Bay National Park arrive on a cruise ship? According to the NPS website, cruise ships bring more than 95% of all visitors to Glacier Bay.
Long before European exploration, Glacier Bay was home to the Tlingit people, specifically the Hoona Tlingit. Their oral traditions tell of life in the valley before it was filled with ice. When the glaciers advanced during the Little Ice Age, they displaced the Hoona Tlingit from their ancestral homeland. Despite the displacement, the Hoona maintained cultural ties to the region, returning to hunt, fish, and gather resources.
In recent years, efforts have been made to honor and integrate indigenous knowledge into the management of the park. The Hoona Tribal House, built in Bartlett Cove in 2016, stands as a symbol of cultural resilience and collaboration. It serves as a venue for traditional gatherings, cultural exchange, and public education.
Glaciers and natural features. At the heart of the park are its glaciers. Trail trivia. How many glaciers are there in Glacier Bay National Park? Over 1,000. The most famous tidewater glaciers include Margerie Glacier, Johns Hopkins Glacier, and Lamplugh Glacier. These ice giants are known for their calving events where chunks of ice crash into the bay, creating thunderous roars and floating icebergs.
I was so lucky to experience a calving event during my first visit to Glacier Bay via cruise ship 20 years ago. Calving is when icebergs break off of a glacier, and thunderous is a very accurate description. Much of the park's 3.3 million acres is rarely seen. Remote lakes, the Muir Inlet, and upper reaches of the park offer distant and tranquil settings, often accessible only by kayak, small boat, bush plane, or by foot. In previous episodes, we've talked about high tide, low tide, tide pools, so now let's discuss tidewaters.
Tidewaters, also known as tidal ranges, refer to the vertical difference between high tide and low tide in coastal regions. In Alaska, these tidal ranges are particularly dramatic and play a significant role in shaping the landscape, influencing marine life and impacting navigation.
In the southeast and south central parts of Alaska, tidal ranges are among the largest in the world. For instance, Cook Inlet, located near Anchorage, experiences some of the highest tidal fluctuations on Earth, with tides rising and falling over 30 feet, or about 9 meters. In Juneau and other areas of southeast Alaska, tides typically range between 15 and 25 feet, while Glacier Bay experiences fluctuations of 12 to 18 feet. These significant tidal changes are largely due to the geography of Alaska's coastline. Narrow inlets, fjords, and bays serve as natural funnels that amplify tidal effects.
Even though Alaska ranks among the top regions for tidal variation, it does not claim the very highest tides. Trail trivia: where are the highest tidal ranges on Earth? The Bay of Fundy, located between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick in Canada. The Bay of Fundy holds the record for the world's highest tides, with a tidal range reaching up to 53 feet or 16 meters.
Other locations around the world also experience large tidal ranges. The Bristol Channel in the UK can see tidal changes of up to 50 feet, and Ungava Bay in Quebec typically experiences tidal ranges from 40 to 45 feet.
Conversely, some parts of the world see almost no tidal variation at all. For example, the Mediterranean Sea has minimal tides, often less than 1 foot, due to its semi-enclosed geography and the restricted flow of water through the Strait of Gibraltar. Similarly, the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico generally experience tidal ranges between 1 and 2 feet. The Baltic Sea also has very small tidal shifts, typically less than 1 foot, as a result of its enclosed basin and limited exchange with open ocean waters.
Understanding tidal ranges is important because they affect various aspects of life and the environment. In places like Glacier Bay, timing tides is essential for safe boating. Tides also influence the behavior of marine wildlife and shape intertidal ecosystems, where many species depend on regular cycles of exposure and submersion. Additionally, tidal patterns play a key role in coastal infrastructure planning and environmental management. They create both challenges and opportunities, influencing everything from natural habitats and species migration to human activities and settlement patterns along its shores. Now that we have a deeper understanding of tidewaters and know that Glacier Bay has over 1,000 glaciers, let's explore glaciers.
What is a glacier? A glacier begins high in the mountains where snowfall exceeds melt year after year. Snow accumulates in a natural depression, compacting under its own weight. Fluffy flakes transform into dense, granular snow and eventually into solid ice. Unlike freezer ice, glacier ice forms slowly under intense pressure. Its crystals can grow as large as footballs. Air trapped between snowflakes gets sealed into the ice, adding to its unique texture.
Under pressure, glacier ice behaves like a slow-moving plastic, flowing downhill over bedrock. Meltwater from friction at the base helps it slide more easily. Once the ice begins to move under its own weight, it becomes a glacier. Glaciers flow downhill like frozen rivers, grinding away at the mountainsides and carving classic U-shaped valleys. As they descend into warmer areas, the ice begins to melt. When melting outpaces the ice supply from above, the glacier stops advancing. But the ice still flows, like a conveyor belt feeding the lower valleys.
Glaciers come in many forms. Here are 4 different types. Valley glaciers. These stay confined within mountain valleys. Number 2, Piedmont glaciers. These glaciers spread out when reaching flat land. Number 3, hanging glaciers. These drop off cliffs or steep terrain. And 4, tidewater glaciers. These glaciers, the stars of Glacier Bay, reach the sea.
Several tidewater glaciers in Glacier Bay calve dramatically into saltwater, shedding massive ice chunks, sometimes as tall as 200 feet, into the sea. These floating icebergs can last days or weeks, offering perches for birds and haulouts for seals. Paddle near one in a kayak and you'll hear the fizz and crackle of ancient air escaping, known as bergy seltzer.
Iceberg color reveals its makeup. White ice is full of trapped air. Blue ice is dense and newly calved. Green or black ice may come from a glacier's bottom, and brown striped ice carries rocky debris picked up along the glacier's path.
Glaciers are in constant motion and renewal. Snow falling high in the mountains today will take decades or even centuries to reappear at the glacier's terminus. In Glacier Bay, the ice at a glacier's face is estimated to be about 200 years old.
Flora and fauna. As the glaciers have retreated, they have left behind a pristine wilderness that stages ecological succession in real time. Early pioneer species such as mosses, lichens, and fireweed take hold in the barren soil. Over time, alder and cottonwood trees grow, followed by Sitka spruce and western hemlock, forming dense temperate rainforests. Glacier Bay is home to more than 300 species of plants, from towering conifers to small orchids. Many plants provide shelter and food for many animals, and many animals help plants to reproduce by spreading their pollen and seeds.
The Sitka spruce, a giant of the temperate rainforest. A defining feature of the temperate rainforest of southeast Alaska is the Sitka spruce. Sitka spruce ranks as one of the tallest trees in the world. Trail trivia. How many conifer species are taller than the Sitka spruce? Only 2. Sitka spruce ranks as the 3rd tallest coniferous tree species on Earth, behind the coast redwood and the Tibetan cypress.
It also ranks as the 5th tallest plant species in the world. The tallest eucalyptus, also called mountain ash, and the tallest yellow moranti are mere inches taller than the highest Sitka spruce.
Eucalyptus and yellow moranti are considered flowering plants because they produce flowers and develop fruits. While they look like trees and are commonly referred to as trees, the defining characteristic of flowering plants, the presence of flowers and fruits, applies to eucalyptus and yellow moranti. The tallest eucalyptus, named Centurion, can be found in southeast Australia, in Tasmania. And the tallest yellow moranti, named Monara, can be found on Borneo.
Native to the West Coast, ranging from Northern California to Alaska, Sitka spruce thrives in the cool, moist climate of the coastal temperate rainforests. Deeply integrated into the ecological and cultural fabric of its native regions, it is both a biological marvel and an invaluable resource. Trail trivia: what is the name of the tallest Sitka spruce and where is it located?
The tallest Sitka spruce is named Raven's Tower, coming in at 329 feet, and is located in Prairie Creek Redwood State Park in Northern California.
Its straight trunk and narrow crown make it easily identifiable, while its thin, flaky bark and sharp, stiff needles set it apart from other evergreens. The tree's needles are bluish-green and are flattened, allowing for efficient photosynthesis even in low-light forest environments. The Sitka spruce is named after the town of Sitka, located in southeast Alaska, where the tree is particularly abundant.
Ecologically, the Sitka spruce plays a vital role in the coastal forest ecosystem. It provides habitat and shelter for a wide range of wildlife, including birds, mammals, and insects. Its roots help prevent erosion along steep coastal slopes, and its dense canopy contributes to the humid, shaded understory necessary for many plant and fungi species to thrive.
Beyond its ecological importance, the Sitka spruce has been highly valued by humans for centuries. Indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest utilize the tree for a variety of purposes, including canoes, paddles, and basket weaving. The inner bark could be eaten in times of scarcity, and the resin, also called pitch, was used for medicinal and waterproofing purposes. In modern times, the wood of the Sitka spruce is prized for its strength-to-weight ratio and acoustic qualities, making it a preferred material in aircraft construction during World War II and in the crafting of musical instruments like guitars, violins, and pianos.
Despite its robustness, the Sitka spruce faces challenges from logging, climate change, and pests such as the spruce beetle. Logging, particularly in the 20th century, greatly reduced the extent of old-growth forests where these giants once flourished. Efforts to preserve and sustainably manage Sitka spruce populations are ongoing, with conservationists emphasizing the importance of maintaining biodiversity and forest integrity in the face of global environmental changes.
The Sitka spruce is more than just a tall tree. It is a keystone species in one of the world's rarest forest types and a bridge between natural heritage and human history. As we look to preserve the world's forest, the Sitka spruce stands as a symbol of resilience, ecological value, and the profound connection between people and the land.
Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve has other rare species too. One example is a leafy liverwort, which was recently found in the park and is considered extremely rare. The park actively monitors and protects rare plant species. Glacier Bay is a unique location for studying plant succession, where the land is gradually recolonized after the glaciers recede. This process results in a diverse range of plant life, including rare species that are adapted to the specific conditions of the area.
In the early stages of succession, wind, birds, and animals carry spores and seeds into barren landscapes. Lichens are often the first to establish, anchoring to rock with root-like rhizomes and absorbing nutrients from air and rain. As they grow, lichens produce acids that break down rock, gradually forming the first layers of soil.
Once soil forms, mosses, avens, which are low-growing, mat-forming perennials in the rose family, horsetail, and fireweed begin to take root. These pioneers pave the way for alder and cottonwood thickets, which enrich the soil through nitrogen fixation and create shelter for species like willow. The most developed ecosystems lie furthest from the glaciers. Near the mouth of Glacier Bay, lowlands are now cloaked in the mature spruce hemlock rainforest and lush muskeg. A muskeg is a North American swamp or bog consisting of a mixture of water and partly dead vegetation, often covered by a layer of sphagnum or other mosses.
In the surrounding highlands, alpine meadows are carpeted with heath, which is a dwarf shrub with small leathery leaves and small pink or purple bell-shaped flowers, and vibrant mats of wildflowers. All in all, Glacier Bay stands as one of the world's premier natural laboratories for studying plant succession.
Wildlife is also abundant and diverse in Glacier Bay. Marine mammals such as humpback whales, orcas, harbor seals, sea otters, and stellar sea lions populate the cold, nutrient-rich waters. On land, brown bears, black bears, wolves, mountain goats, and moose are the largest of the mammals. Birdwatchers will be delighted by puffins, bald eagles, and in total, 281 observed species of birds in the park, thanks to its diverse, food-rich breeding habitats with minimal land predators.
Seabirds like gulls, puffins, and cormorants nest on cliffs and rocky shores throughout the park. Notable nesting sites include the Marble Islands, Marjorie and Johns Hopkins Glaciers, and Hugh Miller Inlet. In summer, large flocks of phalaropes, which are slender-necked shorebirds, sea ducks, and foraging gulls are common. In winter, loons, merlets, and sea ducks dominate. Bald eagles are widespread along the shorelines year-round.
The park supports globally significant populations of two at-risk species, marbled and kittlets murrelets. Marbled murrelets likely breed in the old-growth forest along Icy Strait. Elusive and unique, they lay a single egg on mossy branches high in the spruce or hemlock trees. The chick, left alone after fledging, makes its own way to the sea, sometimes over 30 miles.
Glacier Bay may support up to 20% of the global kittlets murrelet population. Most of this species breeds in Alaska, nesting on the ground in recently deglaciated terrain. Though stable in Glacier Bay, populations have declined elsewhere, prompting concern, especially as glacial loss threatens their habitat.
Land birds are fewer in winter, but species such as common ravens, northwestern crows, black-billed magpies, Pacific wrens, and American three-toed woodpeckers remain.
Glacier Bay waters support over 200 fish species across 950 square miles of ocean and more than 1,000 freshwater habitats. From tiny forage fish like herring and sand lance to massive Pacific halibut and sleeper sharks, fish are essential to the park's food web.
Small schooling fish, such as capelin and juvenile salmon, form a vital link between plankton and larger predators. Capelin, once abundant in the Gulf of Alaska, have declined due to warming seas and predation. However, Glacier Bay's glacial fjords may serve as a refuge, helping sustain populations during warmer periods and potentially aiding regional recovery.
Salmon also play a critical ecological role. As anadromous fish, they migrate from the ocean to freshwater to spawn, bringing marine nutrients that enrich streams, support aquatic life, and even fertilize forests when predators drag carcasses ashore. According to the NPS website, anadromous fish are fish that spend part of their life cycle in the ocean and then return to freshwater to spawn. Fish such as salmon, trout, and char evolved an anadromous life cycle as a way to maximize growth and reproduction. Growth is maximized by feeding in productive oceans rather than comparatively nutrient-poor streams. However, freshwater streams are optimal for reproduction because eggs and juveniles have fewer predators than in the ocean.
There are 12 species of anadromous fish found in Glacier Bay. 5 species of Pacific salmon frequent the fresh and salt waters: Chinook, coho, sockeye, chum, and pink salmon. Several species of trout and char also spend time in the park. The coastal cutthroat trout, steelhead, also called coastal rainbow trout, and Dolly Varden char. Eulachon, a type of smelt, are also found in the park waters. I encourage you to learn more about each species. For information on descriptions, abundance, spawning timing in fresh water, and distribution among park and preserved streams for each of these anadromous species, visit the link that I will include in the show notes.
Glacier Bay, in part, was established to study ecological succession after glacial retreat. Dr. Sandy Milner's 35-year study on stream and fish colonization is the longest of its kind. His work shows that new streams can be colonized by species like Dolly Varden and pink salmon in as little as a decade, highlighting nature's remarkable resilience and adaptability.
Glacier Bay is a protected marine environment, and boating is carefully regulated to minimize ecological disturbance. Private boaters must obtain a free permit to enter the bay during the summer season, June through August. Speed restrictions and area closures are enforced to protect whales and other wildlife.
Fishing is permitted, but regulations differ depending on whether one is in the park or preserve. Sport fishing is allowed with a state license, but subsistence fishing is generally limited to Alaska Native residents. Commercial fishing is phased out in most areas, although limited operations continue under grandfathered permits. Now, a few animal highlights of the park.
Stellar sea lions, like all-eared seals, can walk on land using their flippers and move with surprising agility. In water, they are graceful swimmers, performing flips and rolls with ease. Adult males can weigh up to 2,000 pounds, while females average about 600 pounds. During mating season, dominant males compete for harems at rookeries along the outer coast, while younger non-breeding males gather at haulouts like South Marble Island. Although the population is growing, Alaska's stellar sea lion numbers have declined by 80% since the late 1970s, prompting their endangered status.
Harbor seals, which we discussed in depth in our San Juan Island episode, are well adapted to cold waters. Unlike sea lions, they lack external ear flaps and cannot lift themselves on land, instead scooting on their bellies, called galumphing. While clumsy on ice, they are agile hunters in the water. Each summer, up to 1,700 seals gather in Johns Hopkins Inlet to pup and mate, though recent studies show a 75% population decline there over the past decade. Trail trivia: what animal has the thickest fur on the planet?
Sea otters. In the past 20 years, Glacier Bay's sea otter population has surged from 0 to nearly 9,000. As voracious predators of shellfish like crabs and clams, they have a major impact on the marine ecosystem, likely driving significant changes underwater. Unlike other marine mammals, sea otters lack blubber and rely on their dense fur, up to 1 million hairs per square inch, for insulation. Often seen floating on their backs, they eat, groom, and rest at the surface. Their dark brown fur gradually lightens around the face as they age.
Harbor porpoises, often mistaken for dolphins, are Alaska's smallest cetaceans, reaching about 5 feet in length and 120 pounds. Usually seen in small groups, they reveal their presence with a brief glimpse of their small triangular dorsal fin as they surface. Dark gray with a slightly pointed snout, they avoid bow waves, unlike their larger cousin, the Dall's porpoise. Dall's porpoises, which resemble miniature orcas in black and white, are more commonly spotted near the park's entrance and in Icy Strait.
These endangered giants reach 40 to 50 feet and weigh over 35 tons. Humpbacks are baleen whales. All baleen whales have baleen instead of teeth, which they use to collect shrimp-like krill, plankton, and small fish from the sea. Baleen is made out of keratin, the same protein that makes up human fingernails and hair. These bristly baleen plates filter, sift, sieve, or trap the whale's favorite prey from the seawater inside their mouths.
The humpback whale's migration from Alaska to Hawaii and back is one of the longest known migrations of any mammal, and remarkably, it involves months of fasting. Each year, most humpback whales that feed in Glacier Bay and other parts of Alaska undertake a 5,000-mile round trip to the warm, shallow waters of Hawaii. This journey takes about a month each way, And during the entire time they are in tropical waters, usually from December to April, they do not eat at all.
Tropical waters lack the dense schools of fish and krill that are abundant in Alaska. Instead of feeding, humpbacks spend their time mating, giving birth, and nursing calves. Females, in particular, can lose up to a third of their body weight, as much as 27,000 pounds, especially if they're nursing a calf, which consumes large amounts of nutrient-rich milk.
To sustain themselves, humpbacks build up thick fat reserves, or blubber, during their feeding season in Alaska, which typically runs from May to September. We were there in July 2024 and took a whale watching excursion, which is expensive, but worth it because we saw so many whales and learned so much. During these months in Alaskan waters, they consume up to 3,000 pounds of small fish and krill per day, gorging on species like herring, capelin, and sand lance. These fat reserves provide both energy and insulation during the migration and tropical fasting period.
Seeing the humpback whales in Glacier Bay was the absolute highlight from our trip in July 2024. I will be sure to post some videos on Instagram. Fasting is an evolutionary trade-off. Warm tropical waters are safer for birthing calves. They're free of ice and have fewer predators, but they're biologically poor in food. So humpbacks have prioritized reproduction over feeding until they return north for the summer.
Last marine animal highlight before we discuss our time in this area and then leave you with a junior ranger activity. Commonly known as orcas, most people prefer the name killer whale for this striking species, which is the largest member of the dolphin family. They grow up to 26 feet long and can weigh between 4 and 8 tons. 3 distinct ecotypes, similar to subspecies, may be seen in Glacier Bay.
1. Resident killer whales. These orcas stay near their home waters and feed mainly on fish. 2. Transients. They roam more widely and hunt marine mammals. And 3. Offshore killer whales, which stay in open ocean environments and are rarely seen in the bay.
Orcas are apex predators with a diverse diet, but their main food source varies depending on the specific population and location. Generally, orcas eat fish, marine mammals, and squid. Some populations specialize in specific prey like seals, sea lions, or whales.
Killer whales have been documented to prey on humpback calves in Hawaii, though adult humpbacks are generally not hunted by orcas. Orcas are not common in Hawaii. This is one of the reasons why humpback whales migrate to warmer waters, like Hawaii, to give birth. In the case of an attack, adult humpback whales will defend their calves, often using their powerful flippers and tails to keep orcas at bay.
Access and activities. Despite its remoteness, Glacier Bay offers a variety of activities for adventurous travelers and nature lovers. Visitors can kayak through serene coves, hike forested trails, or take guided wildlife tours. Bartlett Cove, the park's headquarters, offers the only developed campground and a visitor center with interpretive exhibits. Ranger-led programs provide educational insights into the park's geology, ecology, and cultural heritage. Backcountry camping, tidewater glacier viewing, bird watching, and photography are popular pursuits.
Since 95% of visitors arrive by cruise ship, it's unlikely you'll visit Bartlett Cove. We haven't either. Still, cruising is a fascinating way to experience Glacier Bay. One major advantage, especially for us traveling with a 7-month-old last summer, was having all meals provided on board.
It allowed us to fully enjoy our time and focus on soaking in the scenery from the water, and when docked, to enjoy hiking, exploring, and excursions without added logistics. There are many variables to consider when booking a cruise. We combined this trip with our visit to Washington State's national parks and San Juan Island National Historical Park, which we shared about a couple of weeks ago. We turned this into a road trip, which allowed us the mobility without having to rent any vehicles, which can become quite expensive quickly. Most people who take an Alaskan cruise fly into Seattle, the port we chose to depart from. We parked at Seattle Cruise Park, which was $200 for the 9 days. Remote work has been the key to making this kind of travel possible. It's allowed us to explore so many national parks and park units in a relatively short time, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Me too. We took this trip with my maternal grandmother, my mom, and the older of my 2 younger sisters. While coordinating for a larger group added some complexity, it made the experience even more meaningful to share it with more of our family. Robin and I chose an inside stateroom, which is the cheapest option, and so did the rest of the family. These are tiny and have no window, but we wanted to focus our budget and time elsewhere, and this was simply where we went to sleep. When planning, we focused on finding a 7-day inside passage cruise that included Glacier Bay. But it's important to check itineraries carefully. Not all Alaskan cruises enter the national park. After some research, we opted for a 9-day cruise, which was essentially the same price as the 7-day.
If you can take the extra couple days off of work, it's absolutely worth it. This was a very special trip for all of us, but it holds a special place for me because it was my 50th state and my 50th national park. We planned this trip well in advance, though rooms were still available just days before departure. One major benefit of early planning was the ability to research excursions. I highly recommend comparing cruise line offerings with booking directly through local companies. Independent bookings often cost less and ensure more of your money supports the small businesses, which don't have to pay hefty commissions to the cruise line. Taking all factors into account, cruises offer competitive per-night pricing for a major trip. However, we are mindful of the environmental impact and do not intend to cruise often.
Congratulations on becoming part of the 50-50 Club. 50 states, 50 national parks.
Now, a recap of the activities we chose and a few highlights from our trip. The first port of call was Sitka. I planned a loose itinerary at each stop, and we were not able to do everything we wanted. In Sitka, we stopped at the Wildflower Cafe and Bakery, had a walk around downtown, bought salt at the Alaska Pure Sea Salt Company, ate at Pelmeni, the Russian dumplings were amazing, and Ludwig's Chowder Cart. The highlight in Sitka was a walk along the Sitka National Historical Park Trail, just a 15-minute walk away from downtown.
The almost entirely flat trail is gravel paved and lined by over 20 totem poles. The park has multiple loops, ranging from a 10-minute walk to an hour loop. At the entrance to the park is a National Park Visitor Center, with exhibits on traditional Tlingit life, a 12-minute film which we watched, and preserved original totem poles. On the path, we foraged for the abundant red huckleberries that were perfectly ripe, and they were incredible. I asked the park ranger, and they allow people to take 1 quart per day from the park. In the late summer and early fall, visitors can view the salmon spawning. We saw salmon spawning at almost every port of call.
Old Sitka Dock, which is Sitka Sound Cruise Terminal, is located about 6 miles north of downtown. A free port shuttle runs every 10 to 15 minutes between the dock and downtown Sitka, dropping off and picking up at Harrigan Centennial Hall. Although there are other options, this was the best option for us and worked out perfectly.
Between our first and second ports of call was a day at sea and the designated time inside Glacier Bay National Park, viewing the glaciers up close, the various wildlife that chose to show themselves, including many large groups of sea otters. Park rangers board the cruise ships to provide interpretation, storytelling, and educational presentations. Be sure to check out this presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Our second port of call was Skagway. Skagway has a distinct and charming Wild West feel. For our first activity in Skagway, we took a lovely and easy 1.6-mile hike to Yakutanya Point, which led us through a forest and along a rocky coastline. We spotted mushrooms and even saw a small animal that reminded us of Timon from The Lion King.
After our hike, we walked downtown and visited the National Park Service building on 2nd Avenue to pick up maps, explore the museum, and watch the free park film about Skagway's Gold Rush history. The highlight of our Skagway stop was the White Pass and Yukon Route Railway, a 3-hour, 40-mile round-trip scenic ride. The vintage rail cars took us from Tidewater up to the White Pass summit at 2,865 feet, with narration and views of Bridal Veil Falls, Inspiration Point, Dead Horse Gulch, and the historic Klondike Trail of 1898. This narrow-gauge railway is recognized internationally as a historic civil engineering landmark.
Juneau was the next stop. It included a whale watching and glacier tour, delicious lunch at Deckhand Dave's Fish Tacos, walking around the downtown area, and riding the tram. We booked the whale watching and Mendenhall Glacier tour with Whale Watching Adventures. This was one of those times I highly recommend booking directly with the company rather than through the cruise. Because we chose the early time slot, we were the only ones on the boat, which made the experience even better.
The 5-hour tour began at 8:45 a.m. and departed from the base of Mount Roberts Tramway, which is easy to spot from the cruise dock thanks to the bright red gondolas moving up and down the mountain. The tour included hot and cold beverages, a sweet treat, binoculars, and great commentary from the captain and naturalist. We saw a ton of humpback whales. It was a major highlight.
The tour also included time at Mendenhall Glacier, where we hiked to Nugget Falls, a relatively easy 2-mile round-trip walk on a mostly paved trail. The waterfall is massive and impressive. On the way back, we took an unpaved trail near the water where we crossed streams on stepping stones and saw salmon swimming upstream, an unforgettable moment. On the drive back to town, we saw dozens of bald eagles in an area the shuttle driver told us the locals call Eagle's Nest.
In the afternoon, we rode the Gold Belt Tram, which took us 1,800 feet above Juneau for panoramic views of the city and surrounding wilderness. At the top, there's a short nature trail, a gift shop, restaurant, and a complimentary film.
Unfortunately, we had to wait in line for 30 minutes each way, and the tram was very crowded. Because of the delays, we only had time for a brief walk at the summit. Finally, we enjoyed a leisurely walk around Juneau's historic downtown, browsing shops and enjoying the charming atmosphere.
The fourth port of call was Icy Strait Point. This particular morning, we were incredibly lucky to see some spectacular displays of what is called bubble net feeding. This is when a humpback whale blows bubbles to create a net-like barrier, trapping prey like fish or krill, which they then gulp down as they swim through the bubbles. I'll be sure to add some videos of this to Instagram. Upon disembarking, we explored the nature trail, a short half-mile loop located right near the Adventure Center and port. This trail winds through lush forest and offers peaceful, pretty views. Perfect for a brief nature walk.
Next, we visited the Cannery Museum and shops housed in a large red warehouse just a 7-minute walk from the ship. It features local crafts, gifts, and food items, a great place to browse and pick up souvenirs. We also walked 1.5 miles along the waterfront to reach the village of Hoona, the largest Tlingit community in Alaska.
Another option is a round-trip shuttle available for $5. While the walk was pleasant and we spotted bald eagles and several totem poles, there wasn't much to do in the village itself beyond a few shops and restaurants. A free gondola, known as the Transporter, connects Wilderness Landing to the Adventure Center. The 5-minute ride offers lovely views of the surrounding rainforest. We took it on the way back to the ship and found it to be an enjoyable and scenic experience.
Ketchikan was our fifth stop. A free downtown shuttle runs every 20 minutes when large cruise ships are in port, servicing the downtown area, cruise ship berths, and several local attractions, including the Tongass Historical Museum and the Totem Heritage Center.
The town of Ketchikan is about 3 miles long, with a compact downtown area that's only about 4 blocks deep. We started our visit at historic Creek Street, home to boutiques, museums, and artisan shops. The view of Ketchikan Creek was lovely, and we were amazed by the sheer number of salmon attempting to swim upstream. It was wild to watch. This was by far the most salmon any of us have ever seen at one time.
At 10 Creek Street, we stopped into Sam McGee's, which features a wonderful selection of locally sourced Alaskan goods, including soaps, bone-handled knives, cookbooks, and fossils. Everything in the shop is made in Alaska and felt truly unique. Another great stop was Crazy Wolf Studio, an artist studio featuring locally made gifts and original artwork.
We attempted to hike the Rainbird Trail, a 2.1-mile out-and-back trail with a 541-foot elevation gain. To reach the trailhead, we had to walk quite a ways up an extremely steep street and cross a busy road. Unfortunately, rain made the trail slippery and we turned back early. While the trail offers some views of the water, we didn't find it especially scenic and wouldn't recommend it unless the weather is clear. The final port of call was Victoria, British Columbia, but we were only allotted about 4 hours off the ship, and docking wasn't until evening. To keep the sleep schedule, I stayed on board to make sure the sleep routine with the baby stayed intact.
I chose a 2-hour bus and walking excursion that began at the cruise terminal and followed the scenic seawall past manicured gardens and homes with views of the Strait of Juan de Fuca and the Olympic Mountains. The tour continued into downtown Victoria, a vibrant area full of shops, restaurants, and landmarks. The inner harbor was lively with street performers, food and craft vendors, and key historic sites. The local guide shared fascinating stories and insights about the city's history and character.
Even if you chose to stay on the ship the entire time, the stunning views of the coastline and surrounding islands would make the experience worthwhile. We made it a priority to get out and hike and walk around at each stop. Even with a baby, this was an incredible trip and would recommend this as a great option to visit Glacier Bay. Final trail trivia for this episode. How many islands are there in Southeast Alaska? 1,100. These islands are the tops of a submerged coastal mountain range, forming the Alexander Archipelago. The archipelago extends from Glacier Bay and Cross Sound to the Dixon Entrance.
The views of distant islands and mountains, along with the incredible wildlife, especially whales and other marine life, made this corner of Southeast Alaska an unforgettable experience, one that's difficult to access by land. The cruise offered not only breathtaking scenery, but also meaningful, high-quality family time.
The Junior Ranger section of the National Park Service website is well worth exploring. It features interactive videos, maps, and engaging content that complements the Junior Ranger Handbook perfectly.
For this Junior Ranger activity, we're leaving you with a fun and rewarding challenge. Visit the NPS website and find the Junior Ranger section. Watch the videos, complete the answer sheet, and submit it to earn your official Junior Ranger badge.
Glacier Bay National Park and Preserve is more than just a destination. It is a living, breathing landscape that embodies the power of nature, the depth of cultural heritage, and the importance of conservation. From its dramatic geological history and resilient indigenous cultures to its thriving ecosystems and stunning scenery, Glacier Bay stands as a testament to the enduring beauty and complexity of the natural world. For those who venture into its icy embrace, the park offers a journey into the past, a haven for wildlife, and a canvas for unforgettable adventures.
If you haven't visited Glacier Bay yet, we hope this inspired you to add it to your bucket list. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, share, and follow us for more outdoor adventures. And to all you Junior Rangers out there, good luck on earning your badge. And hey, if you've earned a Junior Ranger badge recently, send us a picture. We'd love to see it.
And if you want, feel free to share your latest story from your time in a national park unit. Who knows? Maybe we will mention it in one of our upcoming episodes. Be sure to include in the email that you grant us permission to share your story. I will include our email address, npjrpodcast@gmail.com, in our show notes. And feel free to follow us on our adventures on Instagram @npjrpodcast. Until next time, happy trails, and remember, The Earth is ours to explore and protect. So let's get out there and do it.
Explore.
Learn.
And protect.